So, this suffering, or dukkha, then is the Buddha taught, his first sermon is based on this common experience of dukkha or suffering, the First Noble Truth. Now this is quite an interesting way to teach, isn't it? To put common human suffering as something noble, a noble truth. Because what's noble about suffering? And it's something we all want to get rid of and run away from, or, we spend our lifetimes trying to avoid it, or suppress it, or run from it. And yet it pursues us. We can see in the midst of abundance, success, and all the worldly, positive worldly opportunities, even at their very best, there's still this something missing, something not quite right, something incomplete that you cannot buy, or you cannot find in another person, or in a place, or anywhere, or anything. And this very suffering then is the First Noble Truth. It's beginning, instead of looking outward, of seeking for some kind of happiness or fulfillment outside, the Buddha established his teaching around contemplating, recognizing, investigating, understanding, and letting go of the causes of suffering. So these causes of suffering are not external. They're our own ignorance, lack of understanding, our being addicted to habits, being conditioned by society, and just being caught in a web of conditioning. Some of it quite good, some of it terrible, but yet it's all conditioned, it's all impermanent, and it's all dukkha as a quality. It's not, we can't find any condition that will truly fill this void, or fulfillment, or satiate this, or get rid of this dukkha. So the only way is to understand it. And so this is what the whole Buddhist experience is about. This is the essence. Understanding, looking into the nature of things. And of course we do that here. We look inward, we observe. We begin to notice and awaken to our own unhappiness, or fear, or doubt, or self-consciousness, or worry, anxiety, jealousy, envy, greed, and all the rest of the human emotions that are common to every human being since Adam and Eve, or wrong religion, right? Since the beginning of time, anyway. So then, my own experience in training in Thailand and with Luang Por Chah, and living in the conventional form of the Dutonga monk, so that Luang Por Chah was always emphasizing this Vinaya, the monastic discipline. And this is a kind of agreement that you make when you ordain and you stay with Luang Por Chah. You have to live within the restraint of this discipline. Well, being a free-loving, hedonistic American, this is not exactly what I was looking for. Was discipline. I was looking for liberation, and kind of, be enlightened, and without having to give up or suffer too much. I remember at the time it was all about LSD and drugs in Berkeley, California, and the kind of hopes of instant enlightenment. Spend $5, get some LSD and instant enlightenment. And I thought, that sounds pretty good, actually. But I knew that wouldn't work. I was not I could see through that one. So then finding myself in monastic form in Thailand, training. So this is when I first ordained. It was only for 2 years. I thought I'll only need 2 years, and then I can go back to the States. 2 years passed very quickly, and I began to understand the value of what I was doing. When you live with somebody like Ajahn Chah, he's exemplary. You kind of see the value of monasticism. It's not just a custom or tradition, religious tradition, that you've got to keep kind of propping up in a modern time. And that's how I saw it before. I just saw Buddhist monasticism as probably an ancient custom that no longer was appropriate to modern age. But it was through living with Luang Por Chah that I began to appreciate what they call the Dhamma Vinaya, or the teaching, the ultimate teaching, and the conventional form of monastic discipline. So in this way, you begin to really observe the causes of suffering. And of course, living at first in a Buddhist monastery in northeast Thailand, when you can't understand anything anyone's saying, and the weather's hot, and it's a very basic lifestyle. In those days, Wat Bapong or Luang Por Chah's monastery was very poor. Didn't have any wealth at all, and very basic. There was no physical comfort there. It was all, kind of very primitive. In fact, we had to draw water from the well every day and sleep on grass mats and walk barefoot on every morning collecting alms food. But still, during that time, I began to see I didn't really mind that. That was all right. But the suffering I created was, just creating frustration, fear, anxiety, self-consciousness. Because in the monastic life, of course, when you go and live in a country, in a different country, as many of you have experienced, and you have to learn another language, and you have to learn their way of doing things, their way of living, and attitudes and values, and it's all just trial and error, and you feel frustrated, and then I even get paranoid. I start thinking they're plotting against me. I could go into kind of paranoia. But something in me never really believed there's these kind of mad states that would arise. And Ajahn Chah's way of teaching wouldn't necessarily depend on language, on a common language, because he was always pointing at the present. There's always an encouragement to look and what is the suffering, what is the cause of suffering. So there's this continuous kind of pointing. And when of course, we would blame the weather, mosquitoes, everything, this is how I'm conditioned as a person. My suffering is caused through too hot, food not good, mosquitoes, can't understand the language, it's your fault. It's the weather, it's Thailand's fault, it's whatever, it's out there. But of course, this was not Dhamma, and this was the personal conditioning. And during that time, 10 years I spent with Luang Por Chah, I became very clear, what that is, how I create suffering. I did learn to speak the language, and I adjusted to the conventions and the way they did things and the cultural attitudes. I was quite eager to learn. I didn't find any of it something that offended me or that I didn't want to do. It's just different. And of course it would bring up my own American conceit, because Americans have the conceit that somehow they can do everything better than anyone else. And and as you can see, in the world today, And this is the problem. Being American, you're conditioned like this. Well, in the context of Thai Forest Monastery, I began to see through these attitudes, because of just living there and the emphasis on awareness, mindfulness. So this mindfulness, then, to me, this word, what in Pali they call sati and sampajanya, mindfulness, awareness. I call it intuitive awareness. It's ability that we all have to be fully present, to let go of the conditioned habits that we've acquired, the ignorance that we operate from. Just a simple ability to awaken and observe, to witness. And so in this tradition in Thailand, they would talk about, they'd use the mantra Bhutto all the time, which is a kind of mantra form of the word Buddha. And then they translate it as Puru, which means, and translate that into English as the one who knows, the knowing. And so this simple mantra, 2-syllable mantra, Bhutto, you do Anapanasati, you inhale on Bhutto, exhale, you'd use it for everything. So you'd kind of fill your consciousness with Bhutto, and then this attitude of knowing, of consciousness, awakeness, and knowing the way it is. So knowing the way it is, the Buddhist teaching of the Four Noble Truths is a kind of guide, a map that I learn to use in order to observe attachment, selfishness, the cause of suffering, to observe, to recognize desire, and to recognize the absence of desire, and recognize when there is self, when there's ego, and when there isn't. So this is the development of wisdom, the discerning ability that we all have as human beings to awaken and know the Dhamma, the truth, awaken to the truth or ultimate truth.